Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for calling this extraordinarily important hearing. You know, lessons learned without accountability. We have to have accountability. This is, I think, perhaps the most important hearing that we have had, and I want to thank you for convening it. Let me just add a couple of questions, very limited time. Sergeant Vargas Andrews, in early September of 2021, a National Security Council spokesperson characterized the Taliban as acting business-like and professional. And in your testimony, obviously, we just heard it. You talked about how countless Afghans were murdered by the Taliban 155 yards in front of our position, day and night, and that the Taliban would routinely murder people under our observation at their checkpoint. We communicated the atrocities to our chain of command and our intel assets, but nothing came of it. Colonel Mann, you pointed out, and again, all of your testimonies are extraordinary and so helpful and heartbreaking. But you pointed out that, your buddy Steve, the former interpreter was detained by the Taliban. He was pleading over the phone. They're beating my wife. My children were watching this, for God's sake. Should I fight them? Why is this happening? You talked about it being a gutting experience. And then you go on to say, I never imagined the kind of gross abandonment followed by career preserving silence of senior leaders, both military and civilian. And coming from you and from all of you, that kind of sentiment today, where are our top leaders? Have any of us heard President Biden and Vice President Harris at the State of the Union or at any other venue talk and convey to those left behind, both the Americans and our allies, you're not forgotten? And to say we will not let up in terms of our pursuit, you've had to do it kind of like a private sector initiative at great risk to yourselves, and you might want to speak to those risks. And let me just say also, past is often prologue. We know that, and I read People's Daily and Global Times every day, and they have one editorial after the other telling the people of Taiwan right now, look at what Biden did in this egregiously flawed exodus to the people of Taiwan. America will not have your back. And, it's important that we always have the back of our friends and allies. These are people who bled with you, lost their lives with you. So if you could speak to any of those issues, I would appreciate it. But, who's the one person who got held to account? An officer who went on social media criticizing the exodus. They threw the book at him. Why weren't there more truth tellers in all of this? So if you could. Sergeant?
Can you clarify what you're asking?
Well, I am asking about this lack, the two sets of information that went out. People telling us that they were professional, that they're acting, with decorum, certainly and businesslike, when you were seeing a completely opposite phenomenon right in front of you, people getting killed at their checkpoints, and you saw it firsthand.
What I would say, the only thing professional about the Taliban is them professionally being able to brutalize and torture people. There was no sense of civility or being what you would consider a regular human being. Right. In that situation. I mean, the Taliban were out there doing what they've done best as long as we've been at war with them, as long as they've been an organization. They continue to brutalize people in front of us because they knew that they could, because we weren't going to do anything about it, and that's exactly what happened.
Right. Colonel?
Congressman, I'll just speak to the personal and organizational responsibility piece. I was brought up by really outstanding Special Forces NCOs who taught me that one of the most important things that you can ever do as a leader is when you screw up, you take responsibility for it. You take personal accountability, responsibility for your actions, whatever they are. And I think most of the veterans sitting out here today would agree with that, regardless of their politics. And one of the things that I know, I made tons of mistakes in this war that I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. There's some folks that are not here because of some of the mistakes I made. But I think where we are now is this moral injury that has been heaped upon not just our veterans, but our Gold Star family members, our families of the fallen, our military family members that are trying to look around right now and figure out what this was all about. What did this sacrifice matter? And when we have a violation of what we know to be right by those that we trust, it doesn't matter where that comes from. The fact of the matter is the only way to move from moral injury to moral recovery is for leaders to step forward first and foremost and take responsibility for what happened. There's no way that we can ascertain lessons learned or where we go from here if leaders don't responsibly step forward and own it. And I think yes, it starts with the commander-in-chief, but it needs to go all the way down to our retired admirals and generals and sergeants major, all of them. We're going to have to really lean into this mental health issue to address this thing. It's going to take all leaders at all levels to acknowledge that this thing was a serious mistake and it can't ever happen again.
I see I'm out of time. Thank you so very much.